This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Robert Spencer here for the world-famous Glazov Gang moments, or whatever they're known as. Anyway, tonight I thought that it would be important to talk about some recent incidents of Islamic supremacism, some recent manifestations of it in the West. Islamic supremacism is a very little-known concept in the West, but it's very simple. A few years back, I was speaking with a reporter from New York Magazine, and I identified a prominent New York imam as an Islamic supremacist, and he said, "What's an Islamic supremacist?" And I said, "Well, do you know what a white supremacist is?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "It's like that, only Islamic." And essentially it boils down to this: when in Muslim countries, one should conform one's behavior to Muslim sensibilities, and when in non-Muslim countries, one should conform one's behavior to Muslim sensibilities. That's Islamic supremacism. Now, we saw a recent manifestation of it in Saudi Arabia when 27 Christians were arrested and deported for conducting Christian prayers in a private residence. Since Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, said, "Let there be no two religions on the Arabian Peninsula," any expression of Christian faith or any non-Muslim faith, as far as the Saudi government is concerned, is absolutely forbidden and contrary to that command of Muhammad. And of course, Muhammad is the excellent example of conduct as per the Quran, chapter 33, verse 21, for those keeping score. And thus, his word is law. And so there is to be no manifestation of any non-Muslim faith in Saudi Arabia. And so these Christians were arrested and deported for the crime of Christian prayer. That's Islamic supremacism in Saudi Arabia. But the second half of the formulation, as you may recall, is that there must be in non-Muslim countries also conformity to Muslim sensibilities. That too is Islamic supremacism, and we are seeing more and more of it these days. Just in the last few days, we saw, for example, that the Jerusalem Wine Festival was denounced by the Palestinian Authority for being an affront to Islam. And the reason why it was an affront to Islam is because it was set to take place near a Muslim cemetery. Now, what people drinking wine near a cemetery has to do with affronting Islam, your guess on that is as good as mine. But in any case, the non-Muslims at the Jerusalem Wine Festival were considered to be insulting Islam by behaving like non-Muslims in a non-Muslim country. Australia, same thing happened in a different way recently when a 20-year-old Muslim refugee from Myanmar raped a 10-year-old boy. And he said at his trial that what he did was not actually a crime at all because it is acceptable in his homeland. Now, the idea that Australia should conform to the laws governing his homeland, or that they should be lenient with him because he doesn't think what he did was a crime, is yet another manifestation of Islamic supremacism. Wherever Islamic law and non-Muslim law and Islamic custom and non-Muslim custom are in conflict, Muslims assume that it is non-Muslim law and custom which must give way. And that is why actually Islamic supremacism is such an important concept, because it is not just coming to the West, but it's already here, and there are going to be, and already are, more and more demands for special accommodation of Islamic law and practice, and this is only going to lead to more and more civil strife and conflict in the future. It's essentially inevitable, and it looks something like this. Another recent story comes from France, where there was a couple, a non-Muslim couple, and they were enjoying a pizza on a night out in a restaurant. And they actually had the audacity, are you ready, to order ham on their pizza. That's right. And everybody knows ham is forbidden for Muslims to eat. As far as I know, ham is not forbidden to people who do not profess the Islamic faith. Of course, Judaism also prohibits ham, but Jews have never tried to impose that prohibition on non-Jews. That was not the case in France the other night, when a couple of Muslims approached this couple as they were eating dinner and offered to sell them cocaine. In the course of this conversation, they noticed that there was ham on the pizza and began to brutally beat the couple and leave them in very serious condition, saying that they were also going to go to hell for eating ham on the pizza. Now you might wonder, wait a minute, okay, so cocaine is no good, but cocaine is okay, rather, but ham is no good? Actually, that recalls an aphorism that became current at the time that the Taliban was ruling Afghanistan before 9/11. And they were making quite a bit of money on opium sales, heroin sales, drugs. And when asked about this, they said, it's all right, it's perfectly all right, because the people buying the drugs are not Muslims. And so it's perfectly permissible for Muslims to grow and sell these narcotics and other kinds of drugs because Muslims are not using them, non-Muslims are, which in itself recalls the Quran in chapter 48, verse 29, saying, Muhammad is the apostle of Allah. Those who follow him are merciful to one another, but ruthless to the disbelievers. Merciful to one another, ruthless to the disbelievers. So you wouldn't want your Muslim cousin or friend to be taking these drugs, but selling them to a non-Muslim, no problem. But the ham is forbidden in Islamic law. There was ham on the pizza. The couple was not Muslim. They were probably looking forward to that ham on the pizza. It was probably dynamite ham. But ham is forbidden for Muslims, and thus they should not have been eating it. And the Muslims felt it perfectly within their bounds as pious Muslims to thrash them for the ham. Thrashing somebody for violating Islamic law, that's pleasing in the sight of Allah. Violating Islamic law, not so much. And so this couple was beaten in France for the crime of eating ham as non-Muslims. Now, there is a mayor of the town of Cogolin, pardon me, I do not speak French, Cogolin, and the mayor of this town is named Marc-Etienne Lansade. And Marc-Etienne Lansade was in the headlines over the last few days as well. At the time that some of his countrymen were being thrashed for eating ham, he vowed to continue the burkini ban on French beaches. Now, the burkini ban is something that you have doubtless heard of. Recently, there was a tremendous controversy in France over the several French cities actually outlawing the burkini, which is a covering that Muslim women wear on the beach that covers everything except their face and hands as per Islamic law, and again, the command of Muhammad. And this garment was forbidden as being a symbol and an outward manifestation of Islamic supremacism and probably jihadist tendencies as well. And so several cities outlawed it. And then after the controversy, a French court overturned these bikini bans. But this mayor, Marc-Etienne Lansade, who I hope one day will be Prime Minister of France, he actually vowed to continue the ban. And he said, if you don't want to live the way we do, don't come. You have to behave in the way that people behave in the country that accepted you. And that is it. If you were accepted in Rome, do as the Romans do. Go to Saudi Arabia and be naked and see what will happen to you. And the mayor was quite right. He was actually articulating a statement against Islamic supremacism. He was actually asserting for France the right to delineate the nature of its own culture and its own acceptable practices in a way that is assumed for Saudi Arabia to do and other Muslim countries to do, and nobody says a word in protest. But if the French do it, oh, well, the Daily Mail, the worst paper in the Western world, the UK's Daily Mail, said that Lansade's remarks were inflammatory. And I think that's extraordinary. Now, in other words, we have to submit to Islamic supremacism, or else it's inflammatory. To stand up for our own culture in the way that it is taken for granted for the Saudis and the Iranians and others to do, that's inflammatory. In reality, it is simply liberty, and it is what we must stand on and must defend, or we will surely lose it. I'm Robert Spencer. Be sure to subscribe to the Glazov Gang on YouTube and like it, I believe is the term that you kids use today, on Facebook. Thank you and good night.